Welcome back to BatFacts. With Valentine's Day only 11 months away and love in the air, I thought now would be as good a time as any to talk about Batman's love life over the years.
I haven't had that much luck with women.
While not quite the noted philanderer that James Bond is known as, Bruce Wayne has had his share of lady companions. Whether they dated Bruce Wayne, hooked up with Batman, or both, this episode of BatFacts, we're looking at the love life of the Dark Knight. A large part of Bruce Wayne is defined by his relationships to others, be it a mentorship to a young boy, the fatherly care of his ever-diligent butler, or indeed the lack of relationship with his parents and his ongoing search for surrogates all contribute to who Bruce Wayne is. His love life is no different, fraught with varying degrees of deception and trust. Here we'll be looking at relationships. Bruce Wayne is often seen pulling lavish, DiCaprio-esque stunts with scores of models, ballet squads, and the like, but these are just in maintenance of his playboy image. Batman has also been hinted at romances with other heroes like Wonder Woman and Black Canary, but those never really materialized in a significant way. We're also not counting the bizarre Kermit Miss Piggy thing he had going on in the 50s with Batwoman. Batman's first love interest was named Julie Madison. Introduced in Detective No. 31 in 1939 as part of the Batman vs. the Vampire story, Madison was a wealthy socialite turned actress, targeted for her family's wealth. She often found herself saved by Batman, and despite being engaged to Bruce Wayne, didn't know that they were one and the same. Julie made regular appearances until 1941's Detective No. 49, where she changes her name to Portia Storm, moves to Paris, and breaks off her engagement to lazy playboy Bruce Wayne, ironically wishing he was more like Batman. Portia then returns to help the dynamic duo in a deception by donning a Robin costume of her own, becoming an inadvertent precursor to Jill St. John's Molly, Carrie Kelly, and Stephanie Brown. These Golden Age stories would be revisited by Matt Wagner in his Dark Moon Rising series, and Madison would also appear as a tattooed social worker as part of Scott Snyder's New 52 run, teasing the life that Bruce could have had without Batman. Julie Madison was portrayed by supermodel Elle Macpherson in Batman's cinematic low watermark, 1997's Batman and Robin. Bruce's rebound relationship was with one Linda Page, also a wealthy socialite. Linda spent her time as a nurse for the elderly and would often chastise Bruce for running from trouble, not realizing he was often leaving to become Batman. Despite her relatively short-lived relationship with Bruce, Linda was immortalized in the 1943 Batman serials, played by Shirley Patterson. Lorna Shore was an early love of Bruce's that taught him the hard lesson about his being Batman putting loved ones in danger and sacrificing a relationship to maintain their safety. Introduced by Mike W. Barr and Alan Davis in Year 2, Rachel Caspian was a childhood friend of Bruce's on track to becoming a nun before Bruce Wayne's wily charms lured her away from the clergy, and the couple were briefly engaged. When her father was revealed to be Gotham vigilante the Reaper, once defeated by Batman, Rachel would atone for her father's wrongdoings by returning to the nunnery. The most well-known Batman love interest is most likely Vicki Vale. Be it her alliterative name or similarities to Lois Lane, or her character's role in the 1989 Batman film, played by Kim Basinger, Vicki Vale is the first name that comes up if you ask the average person who Batman's girlfriend is. She made her first appearance in Batman No. 49 in 1948, and was soon thereafter included in the 1949 serial played by Jane Addams. The character remained active until 1963, with most of her stories being an effort to discern Batman's identity, and occasionally romantically linked to Bruce Wayne. After the last-minute recasting of Vicki Vale in 1989's Batman meant Vale was being portrayed as a blonde, Batman co-creator and notorious teller of untruths Bob Kane told the media upon the film's release that he had always intended for the character to be blonde, but was a redhead for 20-plus years due to a printing error that they just let slide. This is likely false. Vicki's hair color has essentially alternated ever since. Returning to comics to coincide with the 1989 movie, Vicki would later have a change in career, going from a photojournalist to host of a cable TV talk show. In the Arkham games, Vicki is host of her own The Vicki Vale Show. She's also the only lady on this list to have a Prince song named after her. She's kept a bit of a low profile of late, simply remaining an ally to Batman, but no longer a romantic interest. Then, in 1954, 6 years after Vicki hit the scene, Frederick Wortham's Seduction of the Innocent was published, and it decimated the comic book industry. Batman was hit particularly hard, as the book had 4 pages of material on Batman specifically, more than any other superhero, calling the books anti-feminine and psychologically homosexual, even stating, "The Batman type of story may stimulate children to homosexual fantasies, the nature of which they may be unconscious." Wortham preyed on the hysteria of a less tolerant time, claiming that not only was Batman gay, while conflating homosexuality with being a predator and a deviant, but implying that simply reading these stories would push children to these types of lifestyles. In order to stay afloat during the ensuing paranoia, along with sweeping censorship that affected the entire industry, Batman Comics became forced to walk a bizarre tightrope between showing Batman as a red-blooded heterosexual man by introducing a score of new characters, making Batman the de facto patriarch of a Bat family, while not neglecting the book's inferred demographic, for whom Robin was a surrogate and were for the most part too young to be interested in girls. These situations, like imaginary weddings or Batman running off with a woman, would often feature Robin reacting negatively, wondering how something like this could happen or what this would mean to he and Batman's future, which of course inspires snickering innuendo and the circle completes. As writer Will Brooker put it, Batman's heterosexuality always unwittingly reminds us of the campy incarnations as it tries to repress them, and the harder the push towards darkness, the more the rainbow Batman sneaks through the gaps. When asked about this subject for a 1991 essay by Christopher Sherritt, Frank Miller was quoted as saying, "Batman isn't gay. His sexual urges are so drastically sublimated to crime fighting that there's no room for any other emotional activity. Bruce Wayne is undoubtedly a heterosexual character, but Batman is totemic, a cultural mosaic, with symbolic and allegorical connections to all walks of life, including the gay community. Relating to Batman is not just a straight white guy phenomenon. Batman has a gay analog in the Midnighter, who is on again, off again with gay Superman, Apollo. George Clooney joked with Barbara Walters that his portrayal of Batman in 1997's Batman and Robin was gay, and Ever the Villain, rapper Doom attempted to out the dynamic duo in graphic detail on his 2009 track Batty Boys. Even the voice that most people associate with the character, Kevin Conroy, is an openly gay man. For more analysis on Batman's history with gayness, I recommend Andrew Wheeler's article, which I've linked in the show notes. With Wortham's homophobia resulting in DC trying to avoid or eliminate innuendo, it would be 10 years before the dust settled and the Bat family gimmick was retired in 1964, and still longer before anyone dared bump up against the Comics Code rules on what was suitable. I hit upon the idea of giving Bruce Wayne a sex life. Comics in those days were done under the Comics Code, so a hero with a sex life was not only never been done before, it had never even been considered, said Steve Englehart of his 1977 run on Detective that introduced readers to Bruce's new girlfriend, silver-haired event organizer Silver St. Cloud. The thing was, Bruce Wayne couldn't sleep with a bimbo, so Silver had to be his equal in many ways, a strong businesswoman, intelligent, and decisive. It didn't take long for Silver to deduce Wayne's alter ego, and despite caring deeply for Bruce, couldn't commit to the level of worry that comes with being Batman's significant other, and bid a tearful farewell. As mentioned in our 1989 episode, Silver was the original love interest for several drafts of Batman 89, including the initial script by Tom Mankiewicz.
And I even slept with you. I can't believe I did that. And then you...
Silver would return in the Siege storyline in The Legend of Dark Knight, and again in Englehart and Rogers' follow-up, 2005's limited series Dark Detective. Silver's thus far final appearance was in Kevin Smith's The Widening Gyre, rekindling her relationship with Bruce and being his daytime partner, leaving him to be Batman at night. This was until she had her throat cut by onomatopoeia. The series wrapped up in 2010, and the third part of Smith's planned trilogy with Walter Flanagan, Batman Bellicosity, which should reveal Silver's fate, has been in release limbo since 2013. So, does Bruce Wayne have a type?
I've done my homework. Or do I need skin-tight vinyl and a whip?
Well, he has a pretty limited dating pool. So far, we've seen a wealthy socialite turned actress, a wealthy socialite volunteer nurse, a museum curator, a nun, a photojournalist, and an event planner. All women who, except maybe the nun, fit alongside Bruce Wayne's upper-class public persona, and were clearly dating Bruce Wayne first and foremost. But what about those relationships that blurred the line between Bruce and Batman? When a laser accident robbed her of all pigment, Natalia Knight became Nocturna, and became intimate with both Bruce Wayne and Batman as a reformed villain during an era when Jason Todd was Robin. She even adopted Jason and expressed a desire to marry Batman. These plans were cut short when she was brutally attacked by Nightslayer and sent away on a hot air balloon by Jason Todd during a storm. Dr. Chandra Kinsolving was a physiotherapist who secretly had low-level psychic and healing abilities. Hired by Bruce Wayne to help heal his back after it was broken over Bane's knee, sparks flew during Bruce's rehabilitation. But after healing Bruce, Chandra was kidnapped by her psychic-powered half-brother to Santa Prisca, and the whole misadventure left poor Chandra's brain jogged back to childhood. She made a brief yet assuring cameo in the Hush storyline, where we learn that she has been rehabilitated and is seen assisting Dr. Tommy Elliot. Since her introduction in 1971, Talia Al Ghul's character has been defined by being torn between her loyalty to her father, Ra's al Ghul, and her attraction to her beloved, Bruce Wayne. Ra's al Ghul has long believed Batman to be the sole suitable heir to his legacy with the League of Assassins, and much of Talia's involvement has been in an effort to bring him into that role. From an illegitimate marriage to a drugged yet legitimate pregnancy, followed by a faked miscarriage and the very real Damian Wayne, Bruce Wayne's son. Created by Danny O'Neill and modeled after the exotic Bond women of the late 60s, Talia's love for Batman is definitely uneven, but not completely unrequited. Now that Damian is forever linking them, their relationship is even more complex. In some continuities, she helped to bring Jason Todd back from the dead, and as Talia Head, she became the CEO of LexCorp once Lex Luthor was elected president. Most recently, Talia has been even more overtly villainous, leading her own shadowy metahuman sect of the League of Assassins, known as Leviathan. In the Nolanverse, Marianne Cotillard plays Talia, who gains influence in Wayne Industries disguised as Miranda, in an effort to topple the Dark Knight and avenge her father, but not before a few tender moments with old B-dubs. One thing I've only briefly touched on thus far is, it's dangerous to date Bruce Wayne. A girlfriend was often relegated to the damsel role in early stories, but as time went on, the consequences of being involved with Bruce has become more and more deadly. It's kind of a wonder Gotham doesn't see Bruce as a troubled Robert Durst type by now. Vesper Fairchild was a Gotham radio host whom Bruce Wayne asked out on a date on air. The pair briefly dated, but Bruce broke it off because evidently Vesper was a bit of a clinger, and that's no good when you're secretly Batman. Vesper's high-profile connection to Bruce made her a target and soon thereafter was murdered by assassin David Kane on orders from then-President Lex Luthor. This was a plot to frame Bruce and set off the Bruce Wayne murderer and Bruce Wayne fugitive storylines, which featured a romantic relationship with Wayne bodyguard and Batman-allied vigilante Sacha Bordeaux, who was also accused of the murder. Once separated in prison, Sasha fakes her own death and becomes an agent of the Checkmate Agency, subsequently becoming a cyborg. Supermodel Jezebel Jet was some high-profile arm candy for Bruce Wayne, and before long gained his trust and learned his secret. It was no sooner that she revealed she was working for the Black Glove Organization and their leader, Dr. Simon Hurt, a man dressed as Thomas Wayne, who Grant Morrison has implied may be the devil himself. Their relationship was an elaborate ruse, and after Batman toppled the Black Glove in spectacular fashion, Jezebel was targeted for retribution by none other than Talia Al Ghul, and was killed by the League of Assassins. Ukrainian concert pianist and Bruce Wayne paramour Natalia Trusevich was also given unparalleled access to both Bruce and Batman, after Alfred urged Bruce to reveal his secret.
Think it'll strengthen the relationship or something like that.
If nothing else, she proved trustworthy, as even after being tortured by a vicious Mad Hatter, she never gave up Bruce's secret and was fatally thrown into the basket. More recent flings of Bruce Wayne have included Charlotte Rivers, a buxom and go-getting young TV news reporter. When Rivers' mysterious twin sister's evil plan threatens her, she's stabbed by an accomplice and flees to Paris, ending her relationship with Bruce. Dawn Golden was a childhood friend of Bruce's who reappeared in the Golden Dawn storyline by David Finch. As it turns out, Miss Dawn's father, Alistair, was an occultist who Batman and Etrigan teamed up to stop, but not before he sacrificed poor Dawn in an act he believed would make him the Lord of Hell on Earth. Yeesh. Batman's longest and most complicated romantic relationship has been, albeit unrequitedly, with the Joker.
Darling.
Many writers have explored the idea that Joker is in love with Batman, notably Scott Snyder in his Death of the Family storyline. His love isn't manifested in a physical attraction that has ever been acted on, but it seems Joker is either unwilling or unable to love outside of Batman, as evidenced by his abusive relationship to Harley Quinn. The Joker is driven by what he sees as a connection to Batman, be it obsession, infatuation, or love.
No, you complete me.
The Batman movies often take characters from the comics as their love interest, such as the aforementioned Linda Page, Vicki Vale, and Talia Al Ghul, but some are created just for the films. Nicole Kidman's criminal psychologist Chase Meridian had an interest in Val Kilmer's Bruce Wayne both personally and professionally in Batman Forever. Both the Nolanverse's Rachel Dawes and Mask of the Phantasm's Andrea Beaumont were old friends of Bruce's, not unlike Rachel Caspian of Year 2. The Killing Joke animated film was padded out with an extra half hour of Batgirl story in which Barbara Gordon and Batman hook up, but it's bad. Last but not least, having been played by Julie Newmar, Lee Merriweather, Eartha Kitt, Michelle Pfeiffer, Halle Berry, but we don't talk about that, and Anne Hathaway, she's Bruce Wayne's current fiancée and on and off love interest since Batman issue 1, diamond burglar Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman. Did they meet on a boat? Or was it on the street? This is something modern-day Bruce Wayne and Selina Kyle cannot seem to agree on, and it's a brilliant nod to both of their initial meetings by current series writer Tom King. Batman remembers their encounter from 1940's Batman #1, when a beautiful woman disguised as an old lady was attempting to burgle a diamond from a cruise ship. Selina, on the other hand, is positive they met on the street, when Bruce was in a pre-Batman disguise and attempting to save young Holly, referencing the events of Miller and Mazzucchelli's Year One. Bruce and Selina's romantic interest in each other has fluctuated at about the same rate as Selina's interest in villainy. Despite often being seen as a member of Batman's rogues gallery, Catwoman generally occupies the gray area between a villain and antihero, and has always had a charismatic, flirtatious banter with Batman. In the 90s, she became the star of her own comic, becoming more of an antihero than a villain, a change in attitude that has been hinted could have been the result of a Zatanna mind wipe, which we learned were a thing in Brad Meltzer's Identity Crisis. The relationship became official at long last during Jeff Loeb's epic Hush storyline, and though exciting for readers, did not last beyond the storyline. Catwoman would continue as an unabashed ally to Batman, and Hush would return, this time specifically targeting Selina and Bruce's relationship, and surgically stealing Selina's actual heart. 2011 brought DC's New 52 reboot, which was quick to establish Selina and Bruce's relationship hadn't cooled, and what was once teased and hinted at was far more overt. Catwoman became far more heroic, and for a time even joined the Justice League of America. This brings us to Rebirth, and one of the central themes of Tom King's current run, Bat and Cat's impending nuptials. Bruce finally propped the question in costume on a rooftop in issue number 24, and eventually the answer was yes. DC says the wedding is set for July sometime, and have teased that we may get to see the first appearance of the Joker since King took over. Will Bruce and Selina's marriage go through without a hitch and stand the test of time? Only time will tell, but this is comic books we're talking about, so probably not. So all in all, Bruce has been engaged at least 4 times, and has had 1 dissolved marriage, several dream weddings, and 1 legitimate child, and at least 5 of his girlfriends have been violently murdered. For a character that's often depicted as a solemn, lone, and brooding, he's had a surprising amount of close relationships, and of course maintains an impressive network of allies and well-wishers. We're going to leave our look at Batman's love life there. We'll see you next time where we finish off our look at the Millerverse. Like, subscribe, tell your friends who like Batman, support your local comic shop, and stay tuned for the next BatFacts. Some Bat-Time, same Bat channel. Thanks for watching.